lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Jimmy.
I'm Jimmy R.
And hey, it's Jimmy G. It's Jill. I don't know. What are we doing?
And today on the show, we're discussing 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which was released January 16th, 2026, exclusively in theaters. Now, Jill, listeners may remember how Rowan and I felt about 28 years later, considering our Now Slaying on that film only came out a little over 6 months ago. But what were your thoughts on that one? And by extension, were you looking forward to 28 years later, The Bone Temple?
It's such a shame I wasn't on that episode because I've always been a fan of the 28 Days Later franchise, as it's something formative from when I was younger, probably the same for you guys as well. I know we kind of talked about that when we did the original 28 Days Later on the show.
Yeah, probably about a year ago.
Yep, exactly. But I don't know. I feel like I have a hot take on the first 28 Years Later, especially like amongst my friend group. I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars, and I catch a lot of heat for liking it so much. I went to go see it in theaters twice when it came out. I think I watched it at least twice since. I rewatched it the day that I went to go see it in the theater yesterday. Still holds up. Still really like it. Gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. And I remember I watched the trailer for The Bone Temple and it made me more excited, but I was also really scared because I liked it so much. I was like, okay, where are they going to go now? Like, where can they possibly go now after that one movie? How are they going to make this into a trilogy? So yeah, we'll see if it holds up, but I was looking forward to it. What about you, Rowan?
Yeah, so I was the big okay when we did the first one. I will say, so I did rewatch today, this morning. I woke up and the first thing I did, I was like, I'm going to turn on 28 Years Later. Get a little refresher. And I will say I actually liked it better the second time around. I think, especially with the tonal shift, which I was not a fan of the first time, I think I was all right with it. So I was pretty pumped up going in.
The tonal shift from the first part of the movie to the second, or do you mean the tonal shift in the epilogue right at the end? Which
yeah,
is
like the epilogue
horrendous.
right at the end.
Oh, God. Okay.
I'm not saying I'm like totally okay with it like still, but I found more things I think that I liked about it on the second watch than I did the first. I think maybe like I was a little hard on it. And I also, a lot of like the filmmaking stuff I found on the second watch, I was like really into. And so, yeah, I was like, I was getting pumped up about it. I mean, you know, I don't know if that's like disingenuous to say, was I excited for this one? Like, I was kind of just mid on my excitement, like in general on this one, just where I didn't have like great thoughts of the first one. And yeah, I just, you know, this 28 years later makes sense. And I'm just like, oh, cool. But instead of taking this one cool idea, we're expanding it into 3 movies, which just to me is like, you know, the idiocracy of Hollywood. But yeah, so I mean, I guess that's like, I was mildly excited. What about you, Colton? What about you, Jimmy C?
Jimmy C. I was disturbed going into this one is what I would say, because I once again, the tonal whiplash at the end of that last movie, I just can't believe it. It's still something 6 months later. I still don't believe that's how they ended the movie. I grabbed coffee with a friend this evening and I recounted him like what happens in the Bone Temple and then also in the first movie. And when I was telling him about that death metal Teletubby ending to the first one with all these people in tracksuits, he just thought I was like pulling his leg. Like he couldn't believe it that that's how the movie actually ended, considering 15 minutes later, you know, we're setting up a totem to this, you know, this kid's dead mother, and, you know, most people are sobbing in the theater. You know, it's just so crazy what happens in that movie. So I was very worried going into this one that it was going to be the same tone of the last 10 minutes of that movie, for 90 minutes or 2 hours, and I was like, there's no way a movie can sustain that tone and also like keep me engaged as an audience member. So I was really worried going into that. The only thing that kind of piqued my interest at all was just Nia DaCosta's involvement, because I really liked her Candyman remake there a few years ago. I know that was like a hot take as well, but I liked what she did there. So I was like, well, let's see if she has the chops for this. I hadn't seen, and I still haven't seen, what was it, The Marvels that she directed?
I was going to say, is my hot take then that I was a fan of The Marvels?
Yes, I think that is a hot take. Yeah,
which is insane. Was good.
Yeah, and for the last like 30, 40 minutes before we started recording this, I was watching her other movie that released, this one released in 2025, Hedda. So I was watching that for 30, 40 minutes, kind of the horny Hedda Gabler, adaptation or whatever, and that's whatever. But yeah, it was the sort of thing when this one was coming into it, I feel like it's funny that Jill says, like, amongst her friend group, she was poked fun at for thinking 28 years later was so great, because that's essentially all I've been hearing for the past 6 months. Like, every podcast I've listened to are huge fans of it. Most people on my letterbox are at like the 4.5, maybe 5's a little high, but a lot of people are kind of saying that this is a great movie, and these are a couple of challenging sort of mainstream blockbuster horror movies. So I've been hearing that kind of pushed down my throat, and it's not so much that I reject it, it's just I don't feel that wholeheartedly about it. There's huge issues with that first movie that I can take aim at, that even though I have seen it a second time since its original release, it's still like my opinion was more or less the same the second time I watched it. So, I thought it was a solid movie, but just very different than what I was expecting going into a 28 weeks or days later sequel, more or less.
It's also really hard to compete when you've got just slappers like Primate going too, so.
Oh my God.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why this thing's bombing at the box office, it has to compete with Primate.
I do have a serious question once you guys are done like jerking off to Primate over there. Just wondering, I think it'll be interesting to kind of talk about this. When 28 years later, the first one came out, I think there was a lot of whiplash going on, especially when you get something like that after what we were used to with those types of movies. Do you think going into this one, Bone Temple, kind of expecting that whiplash, did it prepare you for it? Did it make you like it any more or any less?
I was prepared going in that I was expecting this not to be much of a zombie movie and to be more of a post-apocalyptic movie. Because I think that's kind of what we're getting into with this territory. It's the sort of thing, like, if you're going into these movies now looking for zombie carnage, you're probably not getting a whole lot to really sink your teeth into at this point, and we'll get into more of this when we get into the discussion. But yeah, I mean, I was prepared a little bit more in terms of the world, what we were getting into. Without spoiling our thoughts too much, this was definitely a lot weirder than I expected, or... Weird might be the wrong term, because I think I called the first one weird as well. This one is demented in some ways. That first film kind of isn't demented, and we'll get into that. It's specifically, it's isolated amongst a certain character / his mythology. But it's the sort of thing where this one, was it what I expected? No, it was still much stranger than what I expected. I'm not going to lie. But at least it wasn't tonally like the last 10 minutes of that last movie. Rowan, were you prepped a little bit more going into this one?
So I didn't assume they were going to go with that last, 10 minutes of the first one, simply because... no one can Danny Boyle except for Danny Boyle. Like, it's just how it is. I'll be honest, and like you said, we're going to get more into it anyway. Like, this went where I expected it to go, because we were all excited about a franchise coming back. There was a lot of like high praise, but the zombie subject always goes where this is going to go. Like, it's really hard to forge like new pathways in the storytelling in this kind of horror. So it was kind of expected.
So is this Bone Temple worth visiting? Well, before we get into that, let's throw it on over to the trailer.
I haven't feared my life ending for many years. I live alone. My work is complete. But today, I did feel fear.
Are you ready?
And now, a leap into the unknown.
28 years later, The Bone Temple, January 16th, rated R.
28 years later, The Bone Temple was directed by Nia DaCosta and written by Alex Garland. And the story is as follows. As Spike is inducted into Sir Jimmy Crystal's gang, Dr. Kelson makes the discovery that could change the world forever. Now, here on Now Slaying, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth spoiler-filled discussion. So, Rowan, how about you show Jill how it's done and give us your spoiler-free thoughts on 28 years later?
Show me.
The Bone Temple.
Well, first, I mean, I think you'd already get shirted already because it's Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal. You forgot the Lord? Jeez.
Sir Lord? Really?
Sir Lord Jimmy
Damn,
Crystal.
I quickly Googled before I looked into that, and I said Sir Jimmy Crystal, and he came right up. So, okay. My bad.
The
my
disrespect to Jimmy. As I kind of stated, this went in a direction that I really saw it going. So I think one of the main issues was for me with this was that there was just no surprises of like, oh man, like to me it was a surprise with the first one when we get to the Bone Temple, because like how sincere and like you said, like everyone's sobbing in this like horror movie. And
Other than me, I had like explosive diarrhea. In that moment,
that's right.
listeners remember?
Yes,
and I had to race out of the theater. Yeah, I had to race out of the theater, Jill, literally minutes before his mother died the first time I saw the movie. And I never leave a theater. If I leave a theater, I'm essentially dying. Like, I'll sit through anything. But yeah, literally the moment in the movie when Dr. Kelson was talking to Spike's mom about like her symptoms, I raced out of the theater, and when I came back, he was climbing the tower to put like his mom's skull on top. And I was like, well, she didn't make it, I guess. Everyone was sobbing, good
Your
stuff.
ass was sobbing.
Yeah, really,
Dude, that is fucking awful.
Yeah, so that may have decreased my enjoyment of the movie the first viewing, but the second viewing, my bowels were solid the second watch.
Only
so.
you, Colton. Only you would that happen.
this is
to.
Colton's Jimmy origins.
Dude,
Yeah.
I cried my eyes out when I saw that. Like every time I watch it, I get
Me
a little
too.
teary-eyed.
Just
Shut
trying
up.
to keep from not going to the bathroom.
I can't.
But yeah, no, like I said, so, you talked about this is definitely a way more demented, way more gory than the first one. So kind of my jam. I do enjoy this. This is heading into like my territory. And like I said, I appreciate how hard these are to make. Zombie stories, especially where we've gotten such long form zombie television told over like 15 years has been done. But it's like everything, even, we just talked about, Night of the Living Dead on the main show. And it's like, Romero's movies all ended in the same place of who the real monsters are, who the real zombies are. And so to me, that's just kind of like, okay, I know where this is going. A big issue for me with this was the actual filmmaking for me.
Oh, we're going to have a big disagreement then. Go for it.
So I came around, as I said, I rewatched the first one, and I was like, I don't think I gave the first one credit of like, just like how punk rock it felt, how all the shots, like everything about it was just like so weird and so like off based and balanced. And it was just like Danny Boyle being like, I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. I'm going to shoot unconventionally shots that shouldn't be shot like this. I'm going to do it this way. And I'm not saying this looks bad or anything, but this just looks like a zombie movie to me. Like this is a very commercially shot movie to me. And I just, especially watching them like back to back, essentially, I just like, the filmmaking like deflated me a bit, where I was just like, go ahead.
No, I love the filmmaking this one because it's actually fucking filmmaking. It's not made for some TikTok brain zoomer on their iPad. It's literally like they made a movie with movie cameras and not 24 iPhones strapped to someone's crotch. It's like, it's actually coherent. Danny Boyle in that first movie, he's like, you know what? I have enough juice for the first 30 minutes of this movie, and then I'm going to run out of it, and I'm going to forget that the movie was supposed to be stylistic. At least Nia DaCosta's movie is consistent the entire way through, and, at least it's right off the bat, I was just happy that I was like, oh, it looks like an actual film. You know, whether or not that's boring a little bit, sure, it's not punk rock, but at least it's not a radio going at the same time as we're cutting it with archival footage, as the time we're cutting to iPhone footage, at the same time we're inverting the colors and for some reason putting one frame in of an iPhone shot in between it. It's just so try hard, that first one. I don't know. I still hate that style.
It's all right. We can have different opinions, I guess.
I love it. I love it when you guys fight, and I'm like the kid in the middle watching my parents go through it.
It's because you're on the episode. Because honestly, the last couple now slayings has been too amicable for us.
It's true. Yeah, we have to create some tension here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't really agree one way or the other because I thought parts of the movie were really shaky, which is reminiscent of the first movie, 28 Days Later. So it kind of has that quality to it. Like at times it's kind of nauseating, but I like that because it's disorienting. And I think you're calling it punk rock. We're talking about George Romero. We called that punk rock. And I think this is punk rock in the way that, not the way it looks so much, but the way that they do what they want. Nia DaCosta does whatever the fuck she wants, and she does not care, really, if people like it or not, I feel like. So I think that in itself is punk rock.
I mean, I think really to me, maybe the punk rock in terms of the story, right? It's Alex Garland. That's really who the punk rocker is. Like, okay. I think the story is good in this. I guess to me, my issue was, and when I say an issue, I don't want people to think I'm like really ragging on this because I did enjoy all the demented shit. I enjoyed all that. But it's like I said, it's just, you know who else was really demented? Like every villain in The Walking Dead. Like it's just like this is where it always goes.
Yeah. It did have a bit of that flavor. For sure.
It's just, this is the military guys in Day of the Dead. Like, this is always where it goes. So it's not just really that. To me, I'm like, okay, I've seen this before. We're just kind of like settling into like this genre. We're not really trying to like do anything crazy different. Now, it's also hard to judge because this is a middle piece of, a bigger story. But, let me get off that for a second. I will say, I thought, obviously, like the main performances of Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell, like I thought they were both fantastic.
Ray Fiennes.
That's what I said, isn't it?
Ralph. You always call him Ralph.
Oh, Ralph? Yeah, that's my boy, Ralphie Fiennes. Ralphie Fiennes. And I do have to comment, as I'm looking down the list of all these Jimmy nicknames, after the Colton story, is it not appropriate that his nickname is actually Jimmy Shite?
That's actually good. Yeah, that's not bad.
I think that has to be yours. But my boy, as we like to endearingly call him, Ralphie Fiennes, he's just so good. He's just so good in general. He's fantastic in this. But Jack O'Connell just really, I thought, I was kind of worried because when the inevitable like meet of these characters happens, I was curious if they were going to be able to, hold their space against him. And I thought he did a fantastic job with not only being menacing, but obviously like kitty menacing, like having this like vulnerability and this like baby side to him. And I also thought it was just kind of interesting that, Spike is nowhere to really be seen from this, which is
he basically gets deleted from this movie, more or less.
I'll be honest, I'm fine because I think the beats from this and the first one, I'm just kind of done. I'm like, I think we praised him in the first one, but in this one, I'm like, it's just all the same. Like, to me, he's when they write like a woman character terribly, and it's like all they do is whine and cry, and they're not useful. And I'm just like, okay, we've done this for 2 movies now with this character. Yeah, it's like the Barbara conversation all over again.
Oh no, he kind of is the Barbara in this movie. Mm-hmm. That's tough.
And then obviously, I enjoyed the music. Lots of Duran Duran. I will say I didn't think it was as well scored as the first one.
Yeah,
where there was a cohesiveness to that. Mm-hmm. Where this was like, hey, we're going to play some of the music from, I can't think of their names, but whatever the guy or the folk band electronic group that scored the first 28 years later. But it's like, we're going to mix that with some 80s music. Then we're going to like throw it back to Radiohead and do like some of the original score.
Young Fathers.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Which, like, that score from the first one is so good. Like, when I rewatched, I forgot how good it was. Yeah, I just thought it was a weird mix where the first movie was the music just was so well fitting with it, and it had that continuous tone throughout the movie that this kind of, like, threw me off. And I don't know, I just kind of thought I thought bringing the theme song of the original back into this, I thought it was kind of like a cheap, like, hey, remember this one? Let's build that nostalgia up. No matter what happens, I think that part was cheap. But, you know, I can't complain about Duran Duran, Iron Maiden and stuff. Like, you know, they're jams, but I just don't know if the world I was given from the first one, if this is really, you know, I enjoyed it in this one. I'm rambling. Colton, what about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of what you said, I kind of feel similarly. Other than
God damn it,
the filmmaking, we're just at fundamental disagreements. And I came in a little bit hard on Danny Boyle, but it's just, if you're going to do that style, let's do it the whole 2 hours. Let's not just do it for 40 minutes and forget about it. So in this one, I did like right away that Nia DaCosta established that, like, listen, this is shot differently. And also the tone that we left off 28 years later, that is not the tone she's going with. This movie is much more serious off the hop. But what I will say is that it adopts a more meaner tone, I would say, overall than the last movie, but it's also a lot funnier, in my opinion, as well. I think a lot of that comes down to Jack O'Connell's character. I think he is really good at treading the line between being menacing and then having a lot of fun. And a lot of it feels like ad-libby, like, quips and, like, kind of ribbing his actors in the scene with him, kind of like, you know, that I really enjoyed it. I think he's just, like, absolutely, like, a great villainous character. Like, after Sinners last year and now this, he's one of those actors that if he's playing a villain, I definitely am seated, you know, to check it out. I was bothered by Spike being sidelined because I am someone who, in that first movie, I really do like kind of learning what it is to be a man from Aaron Taylor Johnson and kind of realizing, like, hey, he actually doesn't have it figured out. I have to figure out this other way of living, which winds up being more in, like, his mother's way of life, Ray Fiennes' teachings, all that sort of thing, and then kind of finding his own way at the end of the movie. So in this movie, it's kind of like, oh, he's taken in by a demented band of Jimmies, and essentially he's just pushed off to the side to do this, like, core focus of Ray Fiennes and Jack O'Connell as, like, your two protagonists, kind of dueling ideologies, cutting back and forth between them the entire movie. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and I did find some of it got a little bit boring overall. Like, I like Ray Fiennes, and I believe his Dr. Kelson sort of character definitely brings a different flavor to these characters in this world than kind of the rest of everybody in the movie. It's just what he's doing in this movie. It's kind of like what you're hinting at, Rowan. It's something that we have seen covered in so much other zombie media. There's essentially, we have a villain in Jack O'Connell that's like a Walking Dead villain, and then we have a character in Dr. Kelson who is doing something that we have seen explored in basically every single piece of zombie media since the beginning of time. So it's just, a lot of the beats felt somewhat familiar to me, even though I did enjoy a lot of them. The one thing I will say that I think is the biggest drawback to me in the movie is just the Bone Temple itself. Which is weird to say, but it's like the movie feels way more familiar to me than it should because we spend so much time in the Bone Temple with, you know, Dr. Kelson's character. And the Bone Temple, whether we like it or not, is a pretty prominent set from the first movie. So it's literally like, I don't know, I just watched the Lord of the Rings movies. It's like if the second movie, for some reason, we spent half of it still in the Shire after we already left the Shire. It's like, no, we left. That was the point. We moved on. We went out and saw the world a little bit. So I don't know why we have to spend so much time there. I almost wish Dr. Kelson found a different way to move on, or that the second movie wasn't called The Bone Temple. I understand how it makes sense with the third act and whatnot, but it was something to me that I just wish there was another venue that we explored. Like, imagine if there was something more extravagant than the Bone Temple that we can kind of point to for this movie, right? And yeah, it was the sort of thing where overall, you know, I enjoyed it, but if you're looking for like zombie movies, I think we're pretty firmly out of zombie movie territory for the most part. They're not the main threat in these movies. It's, you know, it's mostly about just continuing how to live day to day. And that old adage from The Walking Dead, we are the Walking Dead. That was kind of the vibe I was getting for a lot of this movie. So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's, it was kind of similar in a lot of ways as the first one for me. Jill, you loved the first one. Were you thoroughly enjoying this one when you watched it?
Yeah. Like I said, I had no idea where this was going to go. I was scared that they weren't going to be able to do much with it at this point because I really loved where the first one went. I thought it had a lot of heart, made me cry a lot. This one didn't make me cry, but it kept me on my toes, and I was like laughing my ass off because it's so ridiculous. Like this movie is silly. It gets silly. But in my opinion, it's a trust the process movie. Like you need to sit down, accept what you're watching when it happens, and just go with the flow. And if you can do that, you're going to have such a good time, especially if like nothing gets spoiled for you, because I feel like the internet is going to spoil this one pretty quickly for people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I just thought Ralph Fiennes was incredible. He was my favorite next to Jack O'Connell, which I am a big fan of Jack O'Connell. I talk about it every time we talk about him. I've been with him from when he first started acting in Skins. He played a character named James, which is funny because Jimmy is short for James. And he plays such a charismatic, like, I don't know, crazy character in everything he's in. Eden Lake, and then this movie, Sinners. He always plays like this good dirtbag, like this chav, this dirtbag. He's evil, but he's fun. You hate him, but you love to hate him. I don't know. I think he was so good. Both of them had amazing performances. And it really did outshine Spike, like you said. But I don't really care about Spike in this movie. Like, he's just kind of like a side piece for me. I'm just like, okay, I want to focus on, you know, Jimmy and then Dr. Kelson. I love what Dr. Kelson is doing. It reminds me of Day of the Dead. I'll talk about that in detail later because it's a spoiler. And I hear you guys about it, like, not really like geographically going very far. Like, you're still on this like island and you don't really move. And I was really hoping at the end of the first one that they would go somewhere else. And I don't know, it didn't really bother me that it was just like all in one spot kind of deal, because I was so invested the whole time. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. For the soundtrack though, I do love that Radiohead song, Everything in Its Right Place, but I don't know if I don't know if it really worked for me in this one. I don't really care though, because I recognize the song and I like the rest of the music. It kept it very kind of British in a way. And I think that's essential for a 28 days, weeks, years movie. And the humor in this, I think, is very British. And like I said, Jack O'Connell plays the same character and everything. And he's just like always so like weird. It's like, I don't know, just like off-putting people. I don't know, something British about that I like.
Yeah, one last thing I want to say about Jack O'Connell's character and, you know, his band of Jimmies, his fingers that he calls it in the movie. I really like how they let them look dirty. This is something that I hate in basically all modern movies. Everyone's costume is perfectly pressed, fresh out of the laundry. People don't have yellow teeth, dirty teeth. You know, they're not all mucked up. It's like, you know, they'll put gore on their face, but then the next shot they'll have it wiped off because it's more comfortable for the actor. This sort of shit. They let people in this movie look gross, and I love it. Like Jimmy Crystal, his like mouth is full of like rotten teeth, and you know, it looks like he hasn't brushed his teeth since 28 years ago, right? Like I love that he is like abhorrent to look at and then abhorrent inside and just like this rotten character. And I like that the rest of the fingers are like all decrepit with different scars and, you know, brandings and, you know, all these aspects to them that really make them feel lived in this like post-apocalyptic world that we're experiencing. So it was just something that I want to point out, just like the dirty makeup and the dirty costuming. I'm all for it. I hope they keep doing that sort of shit, because you watch something like The Last of Us on HBO and you're like, damn, it's been 20 years, but everyone is like thrifting, you know, we're still going to stores, we're getting brand new, you know, get-ups. And in this one, it's just like, nah, everything's rotten. And I really like that. Even though they're in stylish tracksuits, they don't look pristine.
When are we all going to get stylish It's Lay's tracksuits and just rock them?
Velour, please.
Yeah, that would be good. So what do you think? Are you guys recommending people check this one out in theaters?
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I kept saying, I know it sounds like I'm really ragging on this, and like
it's always easier to be negative than it is positive,
but
unless
like
we're
I said,
absolute
like,
raving.
There was a lot of stuff I did like, and I think I did voice a little bit of that. I mean, I definitely recommend this. As much as I said, like, I prefer the filmmaking of the first one. Like, this is still something to, like, see in the theater. The sets are still very, like, grand. You know, the filmmaking is still good in this. It's still very competent. And I just think, you know, I think this setting, especially, like, some of the beautiful, like, outdoor shots and stuff, like, there's just nothing like seeing that on a big screen. And there were some moments in this, like, that, I had we didn't talk about it, but I'm on Monday. It's a Monday, one showing. Nova Scotia just got there's like 200,000 people with no power right now that haven't had power since yesterday. Like, huge storm we got hit with. We're getting hit still. Gonna be hit tomorrow night. There were still a ton of people in the theater to watch this. And, like, you know, there was stuff in this, like, everybody, like, jump scared or like was like, oh, like, you know, people were grimacing at stuff. And there's just something beautiful about a communal zombie experience. So I am gonna recommend it. What about you, Jill?
I love that for you. All right, let's cut the bullshit. I come on here every now slang and I do a lukewarm, yeah, go see it, go see a movie in a theater. But I'm gonna be real with you on this one. Go see it. Watch the first one if you haven't, and go fucking see this. This is a theater experience. It's so good. I don't even care what's playing out there right now because this is so good. It's so whiplashy, but you're going to have a good time if you're ready to accept that good time. So yeah, it's a big recommend for me. I think it's a really fun movie. I love the gore. I love that I never know what to expect. I like the story, and the performances from Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell are like, I don't know, might be like a performance of the year sort of situation because they're that powerful together. So yeah, go see it. What about you, Colton?
All right, once again, it's Rafe Fiennes, everybody. I know it's spelled Ralph, but it's Rafe. Sure.
I'm not saying it, and I'm not calling him dad.
I would say sure. Check it out in theaters. I mean, if you've seen the other three and you're listening to a review of the fourth movie in a franchise, you're invested or you've seen it already anyways. So I would say, yeah, if you've seen the other three, why stop now? It's more of kind of what we got from the last movie in some ways that, as Jill said, it'll keep you on your toes. It turns in some different weird ways that, I was genuinely surprised at a couple of points in this movie. Despite expecting the broad strokes of where things go, it still managed to surprise me, and that's worth seeing in the theater before it's spoiled for you online. So yeah, it looks like we're all recommending you check this one out in theaters, and with that, I think it's time to cut to the spoiler discussion for 28 years later, The Bone Temple. All right, so you are entering the Bone Zone, where we will be spoiling 28 years later, The Bone Temple. So if you've not seen 28 years later, The Bone Temple, it's time to tune out and come back once you've seen the movie, or keep listening if you simply don't care. Jill, this is kind of your domain. You usually struggle with getting through the spoiler-free discussion, and you did a great job this time. You never spoiled anything. I don't think we have to cut anything. That's great.
Thank God.
But how about you kick off the discussion? What do you want to get off your chest?
Okay, first of all, wieners. Not really a spoiler if you've seen the first one, but
Were you disappointed?
I'm not disappointed. It was lots of wiener footage.
I would say.
I guess so, but if you've seen one, you've seen them all. So
Samson, he gets like a nice chastity, blanket, shawl, skirt. I don't know what he wears halfway through the movie.
Yeah,
I was expecting him to
loincloth.
have a pair of Levi's by the end.
Yeah, it might happen in the next one because
yeah.
Domesticating a zombie, which is what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about Day of the Dead. I really enjoy this because, where are you supposed to go at this point in a post-apocalyptic zombie world? But, you have your wars between your humans going on, the people that are left over. You got residual zombies still. But you need to go somewhere as a society. And I've always wanted a doctor in a zombie movie to kind of cure it and see what could happen. And I love that this happens in the movie. I love that there's this relationship between Dr. Kelson and Samson. And I don't know, it was just crazy to me that it was happening. And it I don't know, I was really on board for that storyline. I didn't expect what happened to happen, and I didn't expect it to work. I thought the kind of flashback, like the moment when everything kind of changed for Samson.
I don't
like,
have my ticket
yeah,
part. Yeah.
yeah. I like gasped. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Like he figured it out. What do you guys feel about? How did you guys feel about that?
I was so conflicted on this plot point. Seeing like Ralph Fiennes dance with this 7-foot tall naked zombie as they're both kind of like tripping on opiates in the Bone Temple. I don't know. This was a plot point for me that I understand. It's a holdover from the previous movie. We have that established relationship. I will say Samson seems very angry at Ralph Fiennes at the end of the last movie, considering he's like rampaging after him and reaching in, you think he's going to kill him at one point, that sort of thing. And now they got this beautiful friendship. It came off a little cheesy for me. I will say where it goes in the end is interesting, at least. Like I do like when he's getting some semblance of humanity back, like these moments of lucidity, or the moon moment that everyone points to, has this nice beautiful touching point in the movie. But to jump back to this plot point for about half the movie, and once again kept bringing us back to the Bone Temple, it was something that I enjoyed it in some ways, enjoyed some of the revelations. It wasn't like a home run for me, though.
I'm also kind of mixed on it. I did like it because, like you said, Jill, I do appreciate, like, the, Day of the Dead is like my all-timer zombie movie. And, I thank God they didn't go so appreciative that they named him like Bub or something. But, I think it's interesting. Now, what I think is more interesting about this plot point, and do I have faith that they'll kind of do what I want them to do? Probably not. Although, I don't know, Danny Boyle, kind of a cynical guy, so maybe. But I do like the fact that we seem to, even as Samson comes out, he's been bit a bunch of times more, but he seems to come out still cured from it, like not necessarily like fully raging. I kind of like the idea, or what I think is the idea, of the fact that he's cured, but the doctor that created this cure is now dead, and there's probably realistically like no figuring out this cure necessarily, especially on this island, as he seemed to be the only doctor. So I did like it, because we're just inundated with this, oh my God, like we can cure this disease, and then we're brought down in the end like the cure to the disease is now dead.
So you guys bought into this idea that this was actually a vaccine. This cured it, like it was going to prevent the rage from coming back again, not just treatment. Because the way that like, it felt like for me with this drug cocktail, similarly, he was giving him like an opiate, he was giving him, psychoactive, whatever, psychotropic, whatever he was calling it, but basically, healing the body and mind, whatnot. It felt like to me it was just the sort of thing that he was going to need another cocktail. It felt like he had a day of lucidity where he could be a human again and roam around and go back to the train and kill a bunch of zombies and come out. But it felt like to me like the next day he was surely going to be an alpha again.
Well, and maybe so. And to me, that's even more bleaker. Like I said, if he goes back and then there's really no one knows that he was cured for the day. The stuff where like we're kind of seeing it through his eyes is kind of whatever. The hard part for it for me is like one of my favorite books of all time by like my favorite author of all time, David Moody, is Hater, which is like he's a huge inspiration. Before our boy was directing Hellboy movies, he bought the rights to Hater to make it into a movie. It never happened. But Hater is like, I don't know, there's like 7 or 8 of these books now. But it's literally a zombie tale told from the eyes of someone infected. And it's essentially this. It's like literally this of, you think everyone's after you. You think everyone else is infected. Really, you're the zombie though. But in your mind, you're normal. So it was one of those things where I think for the general public, this is like, oh, this is like a cool new idea. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my favorite book from like 20 years ago. This is like, they're doing this. And so that was like, okay. But yeah, that's really all I had to say about that. Most of my notes are just about death and destruction and the number of the beast.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, before we get to that, like let's talk about Jimmy and his fingers a little bit. There was There was one section earlier in the movie where they kind of have a tea time. In this is before our charity event or anything, but they go in, they like barge into this person's house. They're all having lunch. Everyone's kind of held hostage, and they're just sitting around, a group of them, breaking bread and talking about the Teletubbies, more or less. You know, Jimmy is very disturbed about the idea of the Teletubbies all having screens on their bellies and then watching themselves on each other's bellies. And then the idea of that this is just Teletubby inception forever, that, you know, it's television screens and Teletubbies all the way down. And he was very upset by this point. And that was one of the moments early on in the movie that I was like, I think I'm going to really like this character, because this is such a weird thing to be remembering from your childhood. But I remember, as the older brother who wasn't watching Teletubbies myself, but my younger siblings were, that I was like, this show is strange as all hell. Like it's not a great children's show. They're just eating tubby custard and looking at this smiling baby son, you know. It's just all popping out of the ground. It's strange. So I really like that this movie was like, you know what? They're kind of all stylized to a certain degree after Teletubbies as well. You know, we got the Teletubby death metal music in the last one. That I'm glad the Teletubbies came back. And then, of course, it gets very sadistic from there with, you know, our moment of charity thereafter. But it was a nice moment to see kind of the whole collective standing, you know, how he's forcing one of them to keep dancing despite how things get weirder, you know, how Spike is so like uncomfortable at the table the entire time. I just thought that was a really fun into his character. And then, you know, how they were all saying like, how's that? And then they would say it in unison together, you know, you know, just like learning all these little like rules amongst the group. I thought it was a good way to kind of let us into just this demented world of the Jimmies.
For sure. I love the little mannerisms like that. But yeah, I'm glad that Teletubbies came back too, because that was one of the details from the first one that I really liked. The fact that when all of this started, these kids are just in this room watching Teletubbies. When it all goes down, their parents come in and start eating them. So that would have been Jimmy's like kind of last memory as a kid before all this happened. That kind of goes back to Samson as well, because we're talking about that cocktail. I think it's more than a cocktail. I feel like the fact that he went back and jogged his memory in the train, it was like coming back to him. I feel like that has to be a part. Maybe that's where it's going to go in the next one, of like how they get their humanity back or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, the Teletubby is really cool. And I love the Jimmies. I love like the religious kind of narrative that's tied in there. Like he's like, this is his set of morals and they're really wrong, but he's like backed by all this weird kind of Christian shit.
Well, it's the opposite of Christian shit. It's all Satanist shit. You know, he's like doing Baphomet like hand signs, and, you know, he has an inverted cross on his chest. You know, he's saying he's literally the Satan's son, you know, old Nick's son. It's something that when I was watching the movie, I was like, okay, I'm fine with this. But, you know, my lovely mother, you know, nice Christian woman. Aww. She came to 28 years later with me, watched it. She liked half of it, you know, the mother and son story. And, you know, she's going to be very upset with 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I think.
Can't watch it with her.
I don't know. Maybe we'll watch it together sometime. It's a weird thing because Carvey, my stepdad, he's a huge fan of the 28 days later and 28 weeks later. He absolutely hated 28 years later because it was like not enough zombies, all this, you know, sentimental bullshit, you know, where's the guns and gore sort of thing. So he probably wouldn't like this one very much either because there's not a lot of zombie carnage. So if they just happen to turn this on, this is a big flop for for, you know, my parents' household for sure. But I don't know where I was going with that. But.
No, that's so sad.
Oh, the Satanism. That's what I was talking about. Well, where, you know, that strongly factors into the third act and a lot of the... Sorry?
I said that's not Satanism. It's still Christianity.
Well, I mean, like, looking at it through, like, a satanic lens, like, you know, it's very much like... It's kind of Christianity's idea of Satanism, I guess. Like, you know, where I know, like, if you talk about the Church of Satanism or you look down in the States, it's more about like pushing forward, trying to get like the same treatment as churches get in the States. But I mean like satanic worship. I don't know how I would describe it exactly, but like he genuinely believes like the whole mythos of this movie is like two opposing viewpoints, right? That essentially this rage was put upon the world by and can be treated by, you know, scientific methods and, you know, treatment, healthcare professionals, or it is, hey, this is divine judgment, retribution. This is hell's minions upon the earth, and I am going to use them to thwart the rest of humanity, for old Nick, for my dad, Satan. It's pretty much, it's like the two opposing viewpoints of the movie. Or at least that's what I took from it.
Well, I was going to say, I never thought of it that way before. And I was just wondering, do you think that Jimmy actually believes all this bullshit because like his dad? No, because that's what I believed. I watched this and thought, my God, he's an idiot. But then he has that conversation with Dr. Kelson and he finds out he's an atheist, and he does have that like weird reaction. He's afraid that
he gets that confusion when the doctor's then like flipping the script, like, oh, wait a second. And he's like, wait, no, you don't have anything else to tell us because I told you what to say.
But he was saying that because he knew that his power was going to be stripped from him. I don't think it had anything about like religious beliefs or at that point. It was like, I want you to stop talking because you've already said what I've wanted you to say. Yeah.
So he was actually such a dirtbag that he didn't actually believe in any of this, and he's using it as like propaganda to make other people believe him and follow him. Okay, I never saw it the first way, but now I see it.
I mean, to me, it matches up because I mean, we had the discussion beforehand, like before we recorded. But like I said, I mean, really, this was the one where I was like, okay. The first 28 years later, we had all the kind of the old radio narratives of like fascism and all these speeches and stuff. And I mean, obviously, we were joking, like Alex Garland has a very interesting fascination right now with American politics. And I was like, yeah, this makes 100% sense what they're trying to say here, because I think Jimmy is shaped very much in terms of Trump. Bad wig going on.
No, I don't think it's that blatant.
A man baby, like essentially just doesn't get his way, freaks out, punishing the general population. And when he sits down and has the conversation with the doctor where he says, you're going to say this or we're going to kill you. I mean, essentially, to me, I use that as, a big talking point on Trump, right? Is that his whole shtick since he's become president is that he's all of a sudden a Christian now, and that it's God that's ordained him to make these decisions and punish the people he punishes. And I was like, oh, yeah. So they basically the parallel here is... Yeah. Everyone and their dog knows Trump's not religious, doesn't believe in God. He uses it as an excuse to hurt people. And it's like Jimmy's doing the exact same thing. It's for his personal gain. It's, he's gaining fear over the land. He's getting what he wants when he wants it. And there's this like cult of personality, right? Like these people are just, to me, I took it as a, everyone, when I think of like a MAGA guy, right? Like, it's like, they're just MAGA. Everything's MAGA. Everything's Trump. Nothing can be bad at Trump. Where this, everyone's Jimmy. Everyone, like, Jimmy does no wrong. Even if you think Jimmy does wrong, you're too scared to say it. You got to agree with everybody else. And to me, I was just like, oh, yeah, like, this is, which would make sense. To me, this is not only just Garland's thoughts, but almost a nod to Romero, because obviously Romero's stuff was very political. We talked about Night of the Living Dead, but even more so as you got into like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, which this obviously takes a huge chunk out of. Day of the Dead was like literally talking about like military fascism and like the military and government complexes wanting to hurt civilians and just take over with fascism. And then I think that tied into the end there, which we can get into later, but like where they're having the discussions of Winston Churchill and the world wars and like why it's important for allies to like use morality and stuff. Anyway, end of political rant. That's it.
No, because you're on a good like little roll there at the end.
Let's talk about skinning people now.
No, because it talks about like history repeating itself and watching that like with the events that are going on today. We'll get into that.
I mean, that's like the epilogue of the movie.
Okay.
We'll definitely get to that scene. Yeah, I initially said I didn't agree with you, but I will say you made some good points. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it leaves me thinking about like who's Dr. Kelson. Is it as blatant as like he's just saying he's like Fauci? Like what? What are we doing?
Yeah,
here?
I mean, very well could be.
You know, it's also like just the fact that Jimmy is so heavily modeled after like, you know, Jimmy Savile and whatnot as well, that I'm like, okay, you know, I guess it's a television personality who wound up having, you know, all the child sex allegations after his death and whatnot, that it's like, well, you know, there might be more to compare there than I realized when I was watching the movie. I think it's just because this character of Jimmy is just such a cult of personality that like he doesn't remotely give me Trump. Like, you know, like if you want to do a Trump impression, this is a bad Trump impression.
Yeah,
what I'm saying, like in terms of the actual character, his mannerisms, his way of speech, everything about it. But yeah, I guess when you kind of pull apart the character and like you just did and point to like everything he's trying to do, I guess I can see that comparison.
I mean, like I said, we can now have the discussion how I think we should adopt charity, and I think the It's Lace podcast should start using it.
Start flaying people?
Yeah, well, we invite ourselves in the podcast, and if they don't call themselves It's Lace Podcast, we're like, you got to shirt them.
Wow.
It's charity.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty brutal scene, like, in this movie. Like, at least the initial start to it, you know, like, like cutting in and then grabbing onto the flap of skin and everyone, like, ripping down. Yeah, that was a moment, like, when I call this movie Demented, there is demented pieces of this movie, and this is kind of like the scene I point to as, like, oh, this doesn't feel much like a zombie movie anymore. It feels like a crazed leader on The Walking Dead or something now. Like, which to be fair is a zombie TV show, but as we all know, it bypasses zombies eventually in that show more or less, right? It's not the immediate threat, just like this movie. This whole sequence I thought was pretty interesting. I liked how we got a little bit of development with the other Jimmy that I forget her name right now, but it's the Jimmy that, you know, runs away in the end, you know, with Spike. I liked kind of them sitting outside as this charity was happening, and yeah, all the little like crosstalk, the fight that takes place, you know,
Jimmy Ma.
Jimmy Ma. Okay, all right. I liked all that. I thought that was a very intense would be too strong a word, but it was a sequence that like I was on the edge of my seat that I was like, all right, where's this going? You know, especially with the pregnant lady who just is upstairs and just hanging out all day watching her family be flayed. I mean, good on you, I guess, just waiting for that key moment to use the hook.
Yeah, this was my bag. I felt like this, like you said, it didn't feel like a zombie movie, and I liked it. This to me felt like a French New Extremity invasion movie or something, like demented people invading your like personal space, and the flame, like you said, was sick. I liked not the shots necessarily of the actual flame, but it was like there was one shot where it's just looking at the ground and their feet, and you're like watching the skin just fall off and hit the ground. Like I thought that was super sick, and I thought it was interesting. This is one place where, you know, I talked all that shit about Spike, where I liked where they used Spike, because I liked that we didn't always focus on, like, we're not just camera on these people hanging up and like, let's watch us do demented shit. I like that we were getting just like the sounds of it as Spike's like outside and Jimmy Ma's like talking to him and trying to calm him down. But like you always kind of out of the corner of your eye can see just like motions and shadowing and then screams and like, you know, stuff's going on. And I just thought that was also like very interesting commentary, I guess, you know, like to me, this is a horror version of Zone of Interest, right? It's just like these guys outside eating a berry or something is like this horrific thing is going on in the background, and like they're having this conversation, and the demented stuff was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they're hearing the screams and they're like, is that more screaming than normal? And they're just having that conversation while you know what's going on in there at the moment. And that with the fire, it was a really good sequence.
Yeah, when everything kind of catches. Yeah, it's a very hectic sequence of fire and the hook in her head. I think she kind of hangs out for a little bit long with everyone just watching the one character with the hook in the head, you know? The whole audience knew what happened, but the movie like wanted to treat it like it was a surprise for like 20 seconds. But yeah, it's a really hectic sequence. It's a lot of fun is a terrible way to say it, but it is pretty fun, you know, in terms of what happens. And, you know, culminating with everyone storming out and just like the screaming. of Jack O'Connell when he comes out and he's just like, he gets like the placement right next to the camera and just like gives it his all, and he's just so pissed. I loved it. That was a great moment.
It was a good scream. I love that.
Yeah.
It's kind of goofy.
I kind of
For
got a little
sure.
excited. I was a little sad we didn't see any disgusting penis torture going on there. I thought for sure we were getting it. And I was like, oh shit, we haven't seen
we're
good
about to get
penis. Haven't seen a good
some
penis torture
circumcision for
since
sure.
Antichrist, so we're due.
I guess, let's get to the Bone Temple, the climax of this movie. So yeah, getting to the Bone Temple of it all. I really like the setup to how this works. You kind of hinted at it when you were drawing your correlations towards Sir Jimmy Crystal and Trump. But this idea of you have to put on a play, you have to put on a show and essentially convince my followers that you are Saint Nick, you are Satan, and that basically I am your son, I am ordained to do this work, and basically I need you to address some points, cement this, otherwise I'm going to make you eat your intestines. Do we have a deal? And, basically they're like, let's shake on it. And I thought this was a really fun revelation because his orange skin, Dr. Kelson's skin, that was something that obviously in the marketing of the first movie we saw, is very prevalent in the second movie as well. I think it might be one of the posters, him kind of dancing in front of the Bone Temple, something like that. But I was like, this is a clever evolution in the script. That I was like, oh, you kind of got this orangish red man in a temple of bones. All these Jimmy's fingers are arriving. And essentially, they're going, oh my God, this is actually Satan. I thought it was very cool. Now, did I think that the movie was going to culminate in basically a rock sequence of Iron Maiden's The Number of the Beast with a big theatrical theater kid, performance? No. I mean, I was kind of shocked at what I was seeing. This was when in the spoiler-free section, I called this movie weird. And I was like, I don't know if it's weird. And I'm kind of going back and forth. This was a sequence that I saw it coming. Obviously, it's obvious when he's getting the record out and he's like, okay, I'll be Satan and all this stuff. But it was just so silly that I didn't really expect the movie to go whole hog into this like it does. Like, the whole performance, the weird like metal ashes thing that he's shaking to like make fire explosions.
Awesome.
There's basically fucking pyrotechnics going off. He got everyone drugged, and it's such an exciting sequence. It just feels so strange. It feels like I stepped into a different movie. I feel like drugged when I'm watching this sequence. It is very much like, what am I watching? How did we get here? It's kind of awesome, and I'm enjoying myself, but this is a moment that you go back to 28 days later and oh yeah, I mean, in 4 movies and 3 movies when we have that rock performance of, Number of the Beast, at the Bone Palace, people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it feels like it's from a completely different franchise. I don't know.
Fuck yeah, man. So I'm gonna tell you, I was drugged. I took a gummy before I went into this, and when this scene hit, it was great. So I like you said, when you see the record, you know where it's going. But he manages to make it way more like increasingly awesome with every little detail. Like when he like blows like the drugs, the coke into their faces, the way that he's dressed up, the makeup, everything, and then he like comes in his like rubber suit and gloves, and he's like just like totally making this crazy like rock opera performance with it. Yeah, that's where it goes. And I was like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm fucking vibing right now.
I was all smiles. This is Nia DaCosta's last 10 minutes of the first one. This is like her doing her weird.
Weirdly enough, this was more tonally consistent though, because it had the build up, and like we know Dr. Kelson is like theatrical with his Memento Mori shit, and all this stuff from the last movie. This felt more like an elevation. I still just didn't expect it to be staged in such the way it was. Him hanging off the Bone Temple, all the fire and stuff. It's kind of an awesome sequence then, this movie on, more or less, but it's also like, I'm just like, Spike's mom's skull is just hanging out up there. Like this
She's lucky to see it first row.
This is such a strange little moment.
It is strange.
I was gonna say, I even love that, like, when he's getting the record, you can tell, like, it's a record he doesn't really listen to and he just has, because he's like, oh, I guess. And I thought, like, the sound design in this was great, because I like that as we're getting, like, you know, the music's blaring and stuff, they make sure to cut into, like, you can hear him just, like, singing to himself
along.
as
Yeah,
he's,
really
like,
poorly.
doing the beats of this, like, choreographed show that he's doing. I just thought that was amazing.
I thought it was pretty awesome, even though in a vacuum, it's awesome. In the whole scope of the movie, it's strange, but still fun. So that's the thing. It's like, does it fully work? Is this like the perfect ending? Like, once again, go back one movie, you know, with Spike fishing, you know, surviving in the wild, you know, gonna basically be like, all right, I'm gonna make my way in the apocalypse, and be like, nah, actually, you're gonna be at like a rock concert in the next one with Dr. Kelson, you know, pretending he's Satan. And it's just like, no one would believe that shit. Like, if you said that at the end of the last movie. It's such a weird diversion that I do appreciate. It's just very strange is all. It was just, as I was watching it, I just couldn't believe my eyes, more or less.
And I mean, I love, you know, where we end up where he convinces the followers to, like,
absolutely
kill Jimmy, crucify him.
That's great. I love that moment where basically he has the 3 commandments or whatever it is, and I forget them all. It's basically like, obey Jimmy no matter what, do my satanic rule of, you know, ridding the world of people, and what was the other one? I can't even remember.
Collect
the other
more
one,
Jimmys or something.
Oh yeah. Let's make, like, not just 1 fist or 5 fists or 10 fists, hundreds of fists, world full of Jimmys, just everyone killing everybody. And I love where he's like, he realizes that Spike is there. He realizes that maybe this got a little bit out of hand. He didn't realize how damaging it was going to be. And he's like, and one more. And Sir Jimmy Crystal is like, no, just 3. And he's like, no, another one. And he's like, okay. And he goes on, and he's essentially just like, you know, like God gave his only son, you know, I have to give my only son as well, and he should be crucified and all this shit. I was shocked at that was where we were going, especially, like, you know, my Christian upbringing, to see, you know, someone crucified on an inverted cross at the end of this movie was it was like, oh no. For me,
yeah,
it was
brother.
like, it's like, this is very sacrilegious, you know. I'm going straight to hell for watching this one, pretty much.
This ain't no
Like,
Veggie Tales, buddy.
It was metal as fuck.
It ain't no Veggie Tales, that's for sure. But yeah, I love that ending and him going out on it. It's an iconic moment. And the hallucination, obviously upside down, where Samson comes back in. He's kind of like covered in blood and looks like the real Satan with the horns on his head and, you know, carrying Dr. Kelson off. That was awesome as well. Weird jump scare at the end of that, though. I was like, it never got me, but I was just like, this felt very 2000s. It felt like YouTube video. You guys know what I mean? Where it's kind of doing like the pan around the bone temple and up into the sky, and a zombie just jumps in the screen.
I didn't expect it because, you know, as I knew we were kind of getting wrapped up, and I was like, okay, well, so where are they going to go for the next one? And I thought, because they showed that, like, close up of his hand, and he was, like, pulling it off of the nail. And I was like, oh, okay, Jimmy's gonna, like, get out of this or something. And then when the jump scare, I was like, oh, well, maybe not. So maybe we're gonna get zombie Jimmy. Jimmy Z
Holy
will
shit.
be
Jimmy Z and Samson teaming up.
that's right.
I mean,
What a film.
it really scares me for the third one because you have your 2 best characters are dead now. Like, where is this gonna go? I'm very scared.
It's gonna become The Last of Us by the look of it. That's what I saw in the ending. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, The Last of Us. I've seen that. I've played that. But yeah, this epilogue sequence, I mean, whenever we heard that this new trilogy was greenlit, we knew that Cillian Murphy was coming back at some point. That was like, right off the bat, it was like, nope, Cillian Murphy will be in this new trilogy. Everyone thought he was the gaunt, sun-bleached zombie from the first one, like where they put it the first image, and he has like the really defined cheekbones, and he's so like emaciated, and everyone was like, wow, the Oscar winner came back to play a weird zombie in the background.
They definitely did that on purpose.
I agree. I thought it looked like him a lot as well. And then everyone was like, no, that's so disrespectful. Like, all the filmmakers were like, why would you ever think that? It's just like, guys, it looked just fucking like him. Anyways, him coming back in this sequence was another thing that was like kind of baffling to me, where I I like it. Of course, it makes sense, I guess, for the world that we're in at this point. But it's like, okay, we have the guy from the first movie with his daughter teaming up with a Spike and a Jimmy. And where does this go? It's kind of, my thoughts. It was like, I don't think we're going to be exploring, the fixing the disease. We're not going to be doing Dr. Kelson's work, I don't expect. So it was the sort of thing where it kind of got me hyped up in the ending of a movie way. But it's like, I don't know what that next movie looks like. That's a heavy lift on the writing department, I think, to make this make sense.
Yeah, definitely. As this happened, I was like, oh, my brain's turning. I was curious if maybe we'll see them bring this kind of back to where we started, where this is more contained, more like almost classic kind of zombie tale of like, then we'll just have Spike and Jimmy Ma and Killian's character. What is his character's name even? I can't even remember. Jim, that was it. Jim and Sam.
Jimmy?
He'll be the new Jimmy.
What is the connection now?
Yeah, what is going on here? But I was like, oh, maybe this will be kind of a traditional, like, English countryside. They're in a cabin, the hordes are coming in.
Of the Living Dead for the.
Well, I'm curious
one.
if maybe this is where they go. They're like, we strip it back, and then it's it's back to this sort of chamber piece thing going on. I will say
this time we shoot it on all GoPros strapped to people's chests, we'll cut 100 times each second, to just get all these different angles.
I was impressed that he came back, though. I mean, obviously, this is not a move that most people at his stature now would definitely do.
It's like Oppenheimer, a little Irish independent movie, I think, called Steve. And then he's like, yeah, 28 years later, the Bone Temple, I'm back.
I like it. I like the move. I like, kind of saluting where you start from. And I mean, obviously, too, it's probably a little easier when Danny Boyle is the creator. It's not like Danny Boyle is a nobody and just had this one hit movie, like he's big time. I'm just saying, I hope I see this trend happen. So when Colton ever does make that Leprechaun movie, Jennifer Aniston needs to pick up her phone and know where she came from.
Exactly. Be humble. But Jill, we glossed over, or I kind of, I don't know, stepped on your theme corner, or at least, the important aspects of what they were discussing in this epilogue. And I was like, we'll get to it. We're going to discuss that because, of course, it's the ending of the movie and, Killian's back, all this sort of thing. But yeah, essentially talking about the rise of how we got to World War II with, not being gracious victors, I guess, or like taking everything, basically like an eye for an eye was kind of the mentality that he was explaining, that essentially in World War II, since we just absolutely devastated Germany, this gave the rise to eventually another world war. What does that mean in the grand scheme of this movie, you think? Should we be nicer to our mega folks, to ICE? Should we just be like, what? Let's give you a little bit of grace. It'll be fine. Is that what we think?
Man, it's rough seeing stuff like this.
Yeah,
exactly. It's rough seeing stuff like this right now.
I know. I agree.
But I do
because I don't really feel that way, but I understand the historical point that he's making and the idea of like history always repeats itself.
Yeah.
But
and
it's
we're
tough
there
in the moment. That's for sure. Yeah.
We're there. But I do respect anybody standing up and saying something in these trying times. So, it gives you a little bit of like encouragement or hope to, keep going. But also, it was kind of touched on in the movie prior to this where you have that outside soldier come in.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you think that's going to become a component in the next one? Like they get discovered maybe by the outside, or they know they're there, but do they get like rescued?
They know it's a naval blockade right around them. I truly have no ideas where this goes. That's the thing. It's like I agree with Rowan that it's like the easiest example is like we do something with Spike's stronghold from the first one, but then also his new home, and this newfound family sort of idea. I don't know. Is it like a Spike homecoming in the next one? Is it just literally he's making a new family with Killian and his daughter? And I don't know. I just feel like the baby has to come back at some point, right? Like the baby felt so important in the first one, the Alpha's baby, that, she gets brought back at the end of the movie.
I feel like that whole community is going to end up coming back.
There has to be something.
I'm interested to see. And of course, to me, I'm like, it's hard to decide because obviously right now the plan is Danny Boyle is coming back to do the third one. And so, I mean, who knows what Danny Boyle's gonna do. I was very interested in this, where this like ended in that like glimpse of optimism, especially, like I said, where I was taking like such these like dire political things from it, where it ends with that, you know, it ends with basically like, are we gonna help him? And, you know, Jim thinking about it and then just being like, of course we are, like, of course we're gonna help each other.
There's still humanity here.
Yeah. So I also am like, is this gonna take like a real big turn, and kind of what the first one did, right? Of like people working together and like wanting to build these relationships, and, you know, even though you got to fight the enemy, like you're trying to build this better future. And but, you know, no, Danny Boyle, that won't be the point. He was
Samson's gonna run for office, and he'll be elected as the zombie representative, and we'll broker a peace treaty, and we'll all dance naked in the Bone Temple together.
Danny's gonna come in and be like, this second one, not enough dicks. We need double dicks.
Triple dicks.
But with that, is there anything else we want to say before we get into, you know, giving a review to this one?
I just wanted to talk about one of the scenes I really liked. It's about Samson. So when he's like walking in the train, you see him kind of like morph like slowly into like that stature of a civilized human. I thought that was a really good scene. And there was just like a lot of good shots in this movie as well. There's that one. There's the one at the Bone Temple where you have all the fingers kind of like lit by like torches or candles next to the Bone Temple with Jimmy in the middle. I feel like that's an image we're probably going to see a lot of in the future when it comes to this movie, like screenshots or whatever. So yeah, just a lot of like memorable shots that I can remember from the movie.
I do agree that, once again, I preferred the filmmaking overall to this one than the first one. I will say nothing hit as hard in this movie visually as the Causeway run in the first movie, when Spike and his father are running back and it's all lit almost like they're running through the cosmos, you know?
Yeah,
it kind of looks
lights.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where it looks kind of shitty visually, like with the VFX, but it's also just such a well composed shot and just so epic and grandiose that I really still enjoy that moment in the first movie. But yeah, I mean, this still has some great photography for sure. So if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, you mentioned that you gave the first 28 years later 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's probably a slay, I would assume. What would you give 28 years later, The Bone Temple?
I'm in such a predicament. So I gave that last one a 5 stars, and I like this one probably even more than the last one.
Oh my God.
So
6
it's
stars.
already a slay. Yeah, it's a slay. I like both of them. I think they complement each other. I like that this one goes less in that sad direction and just is silly and has fun with it. You have these powerful characters that just command your attention when they're on the screen. Like the acting performances, like I said, from Ralph Fiennes. Did I say it right?
Nailed it, right?
And Jack O'Connell. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're going to be talked about for years to come. I think it's some of their best work. I think it's a beautiful movie to the eye. I had a really good time, and yeah, it's like I said, it's a trust the process movie. Like, you're not really sure where it's going to go. And it does get weird, but in the best type of way. What about you, Colton?
You know what? I want to throw it to Rowan first, because Rowan was the hater on the last show, you know, the one that gave it an okay. I feel like we were vibing, we were talking about the movie, and then in the end he surprised me with an okay. So what are you giving this one?
So like I said, this is one of those weird scenarios where I really think I probably would have gave, like on the second inspection, I would have gave it a yay. Like I ended up really enjoying the first one, and this one's like kind of equally as hard because I didn't like it as much, but I still think it's like a low grade yay. I don't think it's like okay level. Like this, there is like even though I didn't love the filmmaking, there is some great filmmaking in this. I loved a lot of the, you know, the themes I was diving into, and there is some cool stuff in this that I did enjoy. And you guys, that's fine. You guys can mispronounce whatever you want to mispronounce. But, you know, as he wins his Oscars, they announce on that stage, Ralph Fiennes, come up here, Ralphie boy. You know, that's my guy. No, like, he's fantastic. Jack O'Connell are fantastic. I think there's enough in this, and maybe I didn't voice it enough. Like, I really did love the brutality of this one. I was like, this is just my jam. This is getting into what I enjoy. I'm just a sick boy like that. Yeah, so, like, to me, this is a yay. I thought this was pretty good. What about you, Colton?
Yep, we're in agreement. I think it's a yay as well. It's the sort of movie that, as I talk about it, there's so many aspects that I don't fully enjoy. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, I don't fully enjoy going back to Dr. Kelson. I don't fully enjoy returning to the Bone Temple. I don't fully enjoy this zombie side plot of, you know, Samson. But there are aspects in it that I like. Like, we didn't discuss the moon moment, but, you know, what that quiet moment where essentially he's looking for consent to essentially kill him. And he's gazing up at the moon, and he's like, and even if you say something, if you can give me consent, we can go through with this. And he says moon, and he realizes, like, oh, that's like a regression back towards, or not a regression, a progression towards humanity again in this patient of mine that he can't bring himself to do it. So there are shades of this throughout that I like it. It's just there's also a lot of shades where this is kind of goofy and silly. Some of it intentionally so, and some of it just unintentionally so. I understand that, you know, Jack O'Connell's great, Ray Fiennes is great. It's just, for me, I genuinely do like Spike's journey in the first one. So for him to be just so thoroughly sidelined in this one, and I don't think he's getting top billing in the next one with Cillian Murphy either. You know, that I feel like this poor kid, he did such a great job in the first one, and now, you know, he's going to be second or third billing in the third movie. So I do miss Spike. And I will say, just like, overall, the filmmaking just worked a lot better for me. It is way more traditional. It is way more boring, some might say. It is certainly not punk rock for the most part. But I did still really enjoy, like, actually seeing, like, okay, this is a movie, and, you know, she's letting all the actors kind of sell it and has some weird ideas, but she fully commits to the bit. So, yeah, I'll give 28 years later, The Bone Temple, a yay as well.
Would you say not enough killer chimpanzees in it, or?
Yeah, I was missing Ben, that's for sure. But at least we got a killer chimpanzee in this franchise in the very first movie.
That's right.
So
maybe,
at least there's
maybe
some...
Ben's relative.
Yeah, there's some primate representation. One thing I will quickly say, too, just as a final point, we didn't mention Samson eating brains. You mentioned the brutality. That was kind of a gnarly bit where he, you know, rips the spine out of the guy, cracks the skull open, and just gnaw on skull and brains. That was, made me hungry.
Oh, it made me nauseous as hell.
I was eating a hot
popcorn
dog in the theater.
Yeah. Of course you were. And if you're not following us on our socials already, at It Slays Podcast, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky, TikTok. If there's a social media, we're probably there, at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James. Is there a second James now?
There's a second
Two
James now.
All right, and James. Gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Gill, and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, Number of the Beast has to make the playlist.
Oh, it has to go on.
But was there anything else that stood out to you? You know,
so
how's the playlist
I don't
looking?
know if I ever ended up putting stuff from the first one on, so I may do that. I think we do have, like, the original, like the Radiohead stuff going on. I think that already made it, so I'll make sure tonight that's all up there, so you can check that out on the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of social media that Colton just mentioned, go in the bio, click the Linktree link, and there's a button that'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love, so follow it. We update it regularly, and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not?
And next time on the show, if it gets a wide release, which I'm not sure if it's going to be getting one because it looks pretty budget. It looks pretty cheap to me. I think we'll be covering Return to Silent Hill, maybe? You know, your guess is as good as ours at this point.
I'm looking. I know we're getting Return to Silent Hill in my area.
I will be going.
Your little theater?
I believe they are getting it. Also,
okay.
For some reason, doing a exclusive, like, week before it comes out fan event for Send Help. Don't know what's going on there. But they're doing it this Saturday. It doesn't come out till next weekend.
I might have to look into that as well. Maybe I'll check that out. Yeah. And with that, I think that about wraps things up for this episode. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
Bye, it's Jill.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.